Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and I'm here to fight CPS and stop taking our children. This is a bad thing that CPS is, and I welcome all of you for joining this podcast. Um, we're here to talk about the child protection system. It's a branch of social services that's supposed to help protect our children from neglect and abuse, and also supposed to help out with social services the family in need, like food and clothing and education and medical and all the basic needs of the family is struggling. It's also supposed to bring back the family together if they break the family apart, called family reunification. Sadly, that isn't the purpose of CPS anymore. They're not transparent, they're very corrupt. They also do a lot of revenge, and they destroy families, and they traffic kids into foster care and alienate kids, which is against the law. Now, I would like to go over a couple things of how you interact with this podcast. First way is you're in this room. That is all you have to do. Listen, take notes. You can give me emojis. Those are nice. Smiley faces, thumbs up, hearts, those kinds of things. And also down below, please check to subscribe to this YouTube video. You'll find me on 7 days a week, twice a day, Monday through Sunday, from 10 in the morning, 1 hour, and then again at 7 o'clock at night, 1 hour. That's Pacific Standard Times. Now, there's exceptions. On Sunday mornings, I'm always on at 8 o'clock because I have church with my family. So I do the podcast first, then go do church with the family. Also, next Friday, I'll be on early at 3 o'clock in the afternoon instead of 7 o'clock because it's Friday Night Lights and there's a big football game on Friday night. And I'll be attending that one there. So, if you want to do something more than just listen and you want to, ask me a question or make a comment about CPS, you can text it by typing in your question or comment. Make sure you show your name. Now, you all will have a name, but a lot of you have names that are unusual and they're more of what you're going through. I like simple names like Bob, Kathy, Bill, Mary, Peggy, whatever. And then I like to have your city and state. And you may not be a city and state in the United States. You may be in one of the countries. So a city and country would be fine because I right now about, I think we have what? 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have about 13 countries that have texted messages in here from all around the world, from Bangladesh to India, to Africa, to Europe, to Canada, to United States, to South America, and then to Australia. And so it's a big group that have texted in their questions, and they do have a CPS problem too. So I've heard from them. I'm also heard from all the 50 states, including the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. And I've also heard from 3 social workers. I yet to hear from a policeman about his involvement in CPS or from other social workers. I love to hear that. I love to hear good stories as well as bad stories. And it's very important that when you text in your question, you tell me a little about your case so I don't have to play ping pong ball. I don't mind it, but it takes longer and goes back and forth. Try to start off with your family structure, then how many children you have, the ages, and the sex, and so forth. And then what were the allegations? And then how were the children taken from you? And lastly, where are you at on your case? That's all you have to talk about. Now, a third way of interacting with this podcast is to be a guest on my show. Let me see. There's some people that are supposed to be in my room. I've not heard from them, so hopefully they will come. Sometimes there is no And so what I've done is that I've alerted Faye, who's from Richmond, Kentucky, a single mom, that I'm on the podcast. And I also alerted Nadia from West Hollywood, California, that I'm live on the podcast, and hopefully she'll join us. And then also Danielle from Georgia. She's my co-host, but she hasn't been on too much lately. She has a lot going on in her life. Now, I mentioned the third way to to participate in this podcast, and that's to be a guest. I can have up to 9 people with me as 10 at one time. The other night I had 2 people join me. That was 3 of us, and it was quite interesting. So all you have to do is send an email to our show producer. Her name is Grace, and she can be reached at grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And just tell her that you want to be on Bob's morning show Friday or Monday or Wednesday, whatever time. You got 14 shows to pick from. She'll contact you, give the link. I'm broadcast on YouTube. I'm using a StreamYard application, so she'll give you the link to StreamYard. It'll get you on the podcast, and you'll be just like me, side by side, talking and about your case and how you can help others and so forth. She'll also tell you what you can do and cannot do, like no eating or smoking during the podcast. Also, no first names of children, social workers, or judges. So that's the third way. Now, the fourth way is you can call in. I'm going to activate my phone number now. My phone is live at 626-698-0990. That means you can call in. I use Vonage. It's a internet-based telephone program. And when you dial 626-698-0990, it reaches me direct to my phone. I can only talk during the hours that my show's on. So if you call me before or after my show, I'll get your message and I will text back those. I'll give you my show times. But I can't talk before or after the show. So now I've told you the 4 ways. 1, by being in this podcast. 2, by doing comments. 3, by sending email to my show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. And 4th, the call in at 626-698-0990. So I've told you how to interact with my podcast. And something a little bit about me, who I am. I'm a loving father with a family of 6. I have a wife of 31 years. We've been married. And unfortunately, at the age of 60, I encountered something I never believed in a million years. I lost my job through no fault of my own. And at that time, I had a beautiful home at the beach, but I had hefty mortgage payments, and I needed to find work. Also, I was unaware that my wife's mother and father and brother and 3 sisters would be trying to take our children. I know they didn't participate in the wedding 31 years ago, and they never really cared for us, but they love to see our children. Our children are very special to us, like you all are loving your children. Anyway, they're the ones that called in, the lay people that made complaints. And for 5 years, I had to put up with these stupid complaints. I didn't know them. If I knew back then, I would never have gone through that. But they were constantly, and they were trying to get our 3 younger children. Our older children were already living out of the home. One moved out at age 25, and she has a family of 3. She's now in her 30s. and our oldest son um, is living a life in the Air Force, and he has two children. So we have grandchildren, and then my second youngest daughter is a school teacher, and I've not seen too much of either one of those three kids because of the incident that happened 5 years later. It didn't stop with the constant harassment, even though I showed them there's nothing wrong. But they were determined to get me, so they decided to have a detective follow me and say I have to insist to come home to open up my house. Well, the social workers have been in my house before. I had nothing to hide, and they've seen everything. So this time I had no problem with doing that, but I was unaware that the belongings of my mom and dad, who recently have passed away, and I was sending them out. I was sorting in the living room their belongings of 55 years, from their 4,000 square foot home. And it was hard, but I didn't know that they would label the stacking of boxes or the stacking of furniture in the living room that would endanger my kids. They were charging me with neglect because they said the boxes, the furniture could harm the children. Now, sad to say, my children were 9, 12, and 15. They were taller than the boxes. They also had their own private rooms and private bathrooms, and they were upstairs. So it really wasn't interfering with their life, but they insisted taking her children, which is sad because, they weren't in imminent danger. But seems like lately the child protection system wants to take your children right away. They're always in imminent danger. So sad that I had to fight this. This happened to me in 2015. And for 3 years, I fought them. I first tried the court appointed attorney. Boy, was that a waste of time. That was a waste of time. I tried to pro se, but that wouldn't work. I'm not a lawyer. And pro se is when you defend it yourself. When you have a court appointed attorney, you're unaware that they usually have a caseload of 30 or more clients. They're paid by the social workers, the child protection system. They're good friends of the judge and the social worker attorneys and the children attorneys. All the attorneys, they're hoping, the agency's hoping that you parents be dumb enough to take court appointed attorneys for your children and for yourself. I was very dumb. I didn't have much money, and I knew that attorneys would be expensive. But I did not know that these court appointed attorneys wouldn't fight for you. And mine had a 30 case load, so he never had time to talk to me. And first time I met him is when I showed up at the court, and he came out in the lobby. By the way, in California, the dependency court, parents are not allowed in the courtroom. It's crazy. The whole thing is a racket. It's all because of money. CPS makes $1 trillion business a year. Not billions, not millions, but trillion. And it's really sad. I mean, they're taking an average of $20,000 per child per month. If you had 100 families with 3 children each, that'd be $6 million in 1 month. That's a lot of money to take care of children. So I'm telling you, they're very, 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 very corrupt. Let me see here. We have someone attended the room. Great. I guess it's Maggie. I see the first part called Curious. I don't think your name is Curious. And readings. I think you're Maggie. So welcome, Maggie. And let's see where you're from, Maggie. Let's see where you're from. It says she starts off with inbox me with your left hand palm for your accurate reading. My beloved, I'm feeling something about your relationship relate with your future. I'm sorry, Maggie. This is a room with the child protection services, and we need to move on with people that have a question about child protection services. This is not a room to do readings. So I going to reach out again to my listeners. Um, I have 5 rules I usually talk about, and I can go over those. My first rule, and I was talking about a court-appointed attorney, how useless they are. But when social workers get you to have a court-appointed attorney and kids have a court-appointed attorney, they control the courts. You can't speak because the judge won't let you speak. You have to speak through your attorney, so it traps you. So the court-appointed attorney is not the way to go. I'm not saying you can't use them, but they're not going to help your case. They won't fight for you. They're not well trained. They're underpaid, and they won't help get your kids back. They'll waste your time. So my rule number 1 is you need to find an attorney. And you need to find an attorney that has a strong background in juvenile family dependency law. That's the area of expertise. You need to find an attorney that has fought child protection system and gotten the children back. Somebody that is a fighter, somebody that has a record of that. Well, I have somebody that meets that criteria. His name is Vincent W. Davis, and I really want to thank him for providing this podcast. And I've worked out arrangement with him where he'll do a consultation with you for 30 minutes for $60. 30 minutes for $60. It'd be well worth you to talk to a real fighter, a real lawyer. He is a trial attorney. He's been doing this for 35 years. He's also filed civil lawsuits both in federal and state court and won millions of dollars. So he's the real deal. And all I'm asking you is to contact him for a consultation, not to hire him, just a consultation. And if the consultation goes good and he'll tell you how to navigate and what to do and how to get your kids back, talk to him about a retainer. He will fight your case whether you're in Northern California. He's a case up in Merced County in California. He works out of Arcadia in the LA area of California. But he'll go to other states. He was in Oklahoma not too long ago, but he'll fight you in other states. And so all you have to do is call in to 888-888-6582. And when you talk to him, tell him that you want to have a consultation and that Bob Pace sent you. Also, when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. It's important he knows how you got a hold of him. And you can talk to him. He's easy to talk to. He has a podcast on here, but he's a professional lawyer. He's the top in the country. And for $60, you got 30 minutes of him. And I know he'll help you out immensely. He'll help you out immensely. So again, I welcome all you people that are straggling in. They're coming in. It is Sunday night. It's Labor Day weekend, and you guys may have other plans. But I'm glad you checked this out because I know you too are having trouble with your children. It was hard for me because I lost, one of my children. I mean, I had 6 and then 3 were taken in custody. And 2 were returned. So rule number 1 is you need to get a lawyer, because if you don't, can you imagine doing open heart surgery by yourself or with a layperson cutting you open? No, you're going to get a professional doctor. Fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. You need a professional attorney, a juvenile family dependency law attorney with experience of fighting CPS. That's what you need if you want to get your child back. You will not get it back by pro se or using a court-appointed attorney. because you deal with an agency that's very, 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 very corrupt. So corrupt, I'll give you an example. The Pink Ladies in Prescott, Arizona. They're a group of 8 women, white women, that worked in Prescott, Arizona with over 25 years of experience. Hi, Natalie. Natalie's from West Hollywood. She finally made it. So that is good. All we need to do is get Faye to come in here. You have a news story from Channel 5. You want to tell me about it? I'd love to hear about it. Natalie's from West Hollywood. She's a single parent, and she's been going through a lot of bad things with CPS. So anyway, these Pink Ladies decided to wear not only the pink T-shirts, but they had stenciled on the front of their shirts, "Professional Child Kidnappers." And on the back, they said, "Do you know where your children are at?" And they parade around in Costco and Sam's and Best Buys and Target and Walmart and Kmart, all the big department stores, sending a really crude message to parents. It was really terrible, them walking around there, and they had 25 years of social experience. They know better. And they weren't protecting your children. They're out parading around and make a mockery of you parents, which is wrong. That is wrong. And that was in 2022 in Prescott, Arizona. Look it up. Now, Natalie says a mommy and daddy that are white had the Department of Child Family Services. That's the CPS. The CPS I use is describing child protection system. They have different acronyms. Where Natalie is, they call it DCFS. In California, it's CPS, Child Protection Services. But anyway, they took their kids, a boy and a girl. So a daddy, mommy, a white couple had a boy and a girl. All right. Now, she further says the mommy and daddy took their kids from a visit. Okay. What visit did they take them from, and what happened? What happened, Natalie? Okay. The police made an Amber Alert on the parents. Okay. And on the parents, the kids back in foster care to be sold. Well, I'm kind of confused, Natalie. How did the parents lose the kids? Did they have a CPS case? You need to kind of start from the beginning. Now, welcome, Taz. I'm going to call you Taz. How can they take your kids because you're homeless and trying to get stability? Well, I don't know. I needed to know some more about your case, Taz. Also, I need to know the city, the state, or the country you're from. And Natalie further says they were placed in South LA with foster parents. But Natalie, you haven't answered me the question. How'd they lose the kids in the first place? I don't understand. You haven't told me, did CPS investigate the kids and they one that called the Amber Alert? You live in bits of the puzzle out there. CPS said drugs were involved. Okay. Well, if drugs were involved, how did it start? Did they come out to the parents' homes? I'm confused. Uh, well, yeah, we know that CPS lies. We know that CPS lies. Tess, Taz, I don't know what city or state or country you're in. I need some more information so I can help you. What is your question and what is your case? Natalie, can you start from the beginning of the investigation? How did it all start before the Amber Alert? Taz is from Toledo, Ohio, and because of allegations from a resident in the homeless shelter. Okay, so what happened is a layperson contacted CPS in Toledo, Ohio, and made allegations that you probably were neglect or abusing your kids. Is that what happened, Taz? So we have Taz from Toledo, Ohio. We have Natalie from North Hollywood, California, and um, who else do we have? I think that's it so far. Now, Natalie says, I don't get details about CPS. I got an investigation. I read the story on the Channel 5 website. Okay. Well, I understand. I'm not asking for the details. I just know there's got to be a start. Just like Taz says, she was in a homeless shelter, and one of the lay people there called on her that she either abused her children or neglected her children. And just because you're homeless shouldn't mean your kids should be trafficking into foster care. Oh, good. Faye, you're here. Do not post name on this podcast. Yeah, I'm not trying to. Yes, there's one earlier. Um, let me take it down. I didn't. Okay, the comment's been deleted, Faye. Thank you for helping me, Faye. That's why I need you on here. We have Faye from we have Faye from Richmond, Kentucky, who just came on. Thank you for joining us. We have Natalie talking about a case she read on the Channel 5 News. We have Taz from Toledo, Ohio, talking about she's in a homeless shelter, and one of the shelter participants called her either neglect or abuse the children. Welcome, fam. Glad you're here. Finally, yay. Natalie says must be drug relationships from the story. Yeah, it may be drug related, but how did it start? It's kind of like there's an Amber Alert put out for these parents that supposedly, and their children suddenly being adopted. There's bits and pieces. So Natalie says, hi, Faye. Um, yep, that's why they take kids because of under the child's abuse. Well, I don't think the person from Toledo, Ohio says there was any abuse. They say that a layperson in the shelter complained to CPS about them, but she needs to tell me further. Faye says, hello, everybody. And we say, welcome to Faye. She's a single mother, lost her daughter at age 5, and then has a son that special needs that she wants to be a guardianship because he's 23 years old now. Faye also is in foster care herself. Yeah, I know about that, Natalie. But right now I'm on my show here, so I rely on you guys to help me out. Okay, I'm reading something wrong. What am I reading wrong, Faye? Oh boy, I blew it. Okay, which comment? Let me Faye, you just joined the room. Let me go back and read the comment from Taz. Um, her comment was, how can they take your kids because you're homeless and trying to get stability? That was a question that Taz had from Toledo, Ohio. Then Tad further said, um, because of allegations from a resident in the homeless shelter. Didn't tell what the allegations were, just says there was a question about that. And Taz says that is what they used. I don't know what they used, but I guess they use that. I don't know how I'm reading this wrong here. Faye, are you talking about Natalie and what she's talking about? Natalie was reading an article on Channel 5 News about a mother and a daddy took their kids for a visit. Well, here it is. Natalie starts off, they're white, had CPS take their kids, a boy and a girl. Didn't say why, just took their kids. And then they had for a visit. And then Natalie says the police made an Amber Alert on the parents' kids back in foster care to be sold. And the kids are PL, whatever that means. So that's how that started there, Faye. I'm trying to bring you up to speed. Okay, I've been corrected. Faye says, and Faye's from Kentucky, and she knows a lot because her state's the worst there is. Well, Faye says that CPS considers homelessness as a housing instability. So if you're homeless, you're neglecting your children because you're not providing a nice roof over their heads. So that's what Faye's saying. So, Taz, they took your children without a home for them. It's not stability. What you need to do is if you have a drug problem, get your drug problem corrected, get yourself cleaned up, get a job, get a home, and then you can get your kids back. You can do that. You can still have visitations. They got to see if you really want to be reunified or not. And again, they're in Toledo, Ohio, and Toledo, Ohio is pretty bad. Let's see, what else here? Yeah, Faye is correct. She says that's why they take kids, because under child abuse laws, it's a form of neglect. I would think it'd be underneath neglect than child abuse, but okay, I'll take your word for it, Faye. And then now, Faye, are you clear about the homeless parents? So hopefully you are. Now, Taz from Toledo, Ohio says the allegations were used that we were homeless and abusive, but no proof. Well, if you're homeless, you can't be stability. You're going to be charged with neglect, Taz. You got to have at least a job, a roof over your head, some way to take care of your children. You can't take care of your children in a homeless atmosphere. You got to have income. You got to feed them and clothe them and so forth. Yeah, I know child abuse is neglect and abuse. Right, Faye. Right, Faye. This person calling in, Taz, says, I don't abuse my children, but I discipline my children. The problem is you're not recognizing you're in a homeless shelter. That is neglect because you're supposed to provide a home for your children, clothing and shelter and so forth. If you need, you can contact social services and they can provide you those kinds of things. But you need to get a job. Okay, it's good. But temporary, the children will be placed in foster care unless you have a relative they can be placed with until you get your corrective measures. I say you need to get a job, you need to get a home, and you need to get some stability. That way you don't. That way you can provide for your child. Now there's KK from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome, KK. We have Brooklyn, New York, Toledo, Ohio, Kentucky, and North Hollywood, California. Richmond, Kentucky. Faye says, try to find a shelter that helps with your transition housing and a job placement. Yes, Taz, you need to find help for a shelter. They will provide. Social service will help you find a shelter and find a place. There's places out there where you can work for your room and board, and they'll help you get a job, and maybe you need training. But it's going to take time. But the children deserve a home. They deserve a mommy and daddy that will feed them and clothe them and have them go to school. Okay, the parents tested for drugs. Okay, great, Natalie. And so now the kids are in foster care. I'm glad you shared that with us, Natalie. So we're here talking about stories. I've briefly told you what kind of social workers you are by describing the pink ladies. Another example of what social workers are like, they don't think. And this social worker from Chicago, Illinois, put an ad from 1848 called Black Children for Sale. Now, they use the N word, but we don't do that anymore in society. So she put this same ad from 1848 on her Facebook page in the year 2024. Now, my question is, why would a black social worker put this on? Faye contacted her, and she told Faye that this still goes on today. I guess she was trying to make a point, but I think maybe she could have given an explanation with that ad. But the Civil War was 140 years ago, and that ad came out 10 years before the Civil War. So again, that's poor taste by there. Oh, great. We got Happy Feet. Welcome, Happy Feet from Arizona. Happy Feet is from Tucson, Arizona. And no problem. You don't have to be any time. I'm on from 7 to 8, 1 hour. I'm glad you're here. This is Happy Feet from Tucson, Arizona. And we have Natalie from West Hollywood. No, excuse me, from North Hollywood. I think Natalie's from West Hollywood. Yeah, West Hollywood, California. And Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky. We have a new person named Taz who is in a homeless place who lost their children because of neglect, not having a place for her children. That is Taz from Toledo, Ohio. And we got KK Richardson, Brooklyn, New York, who's on this morning. And she's here and she says hi. Um, Yes, K is on. KK is on right now. It's her name. She uses two accounts. She has KK Richardson, and then she has Kima Richardson is her other name. Let me see if I can find it here. So many are talking, and it's just Akima Richardson is KK. So she's on two. Faye. We need to see the history of child trafficking. Well, you can look that up, Natalie, and you can research it and share it with the room. That'd be great for you to do that. I right now got too many people to talk to. Faye says, hi, Happy Feet from Tucson, Arizona. And yes, KK's been on Faye. And then we have Natalie says something else. Natalie says, yes, 1848, because afterwards would be another trains and private Catholic orphan homes. Yeah, understand, Natalie. Understand that is good. That's good, Natalie. Natalie further says West Hollywood, 6 blocks from the Whiskey A Go Go. Okay, yeah, she's near Sunset Boulevard, where all the places in Hollywood, and it's West Hollywood, not North Hollywood, West Hollywood. And then Faye says, "Oh, okay." And then Natalie says, under the 8,000 Sunset Boulevard building where Wells Fargo was. Okay, we know about where you're at. Hold on a second here. Okay, Faye's on a call right now. Faye, Happy Feet says hello. Happy Feet says hello. Again, I'd like to remind everybody, my phone is on, and you can call in. Happy Feet from Tucson, Arizona. We had another court hearing, and again, my court-appointed lawyer didn't show. You're wasting your time with a court-appointed attorney. You guys, I've already talked about it. You need a real attorney. Now, my phone number's there. Any of you are welcome to call in at 626-698-0990. That's 626-698-0990. Now, I have my rule number 2, which is you need to organize your paperwork. It's very important that you get yourself a notebook and get yourself the dividers. And you want to stuff it. It's a 8.5 by 11-inch notebook, 3 inches thick with 3-ring binder. And that's where you put all your court papers and all your other information in there. You get subject dividers and fill up, get 20 dividers, and you have 20 sections in your notebook. One section for your court papers, or you may want to separate your court papers. Make sure you hole punch them and put them in. Then you need another section called incidents. That's incidents with your lawyer, incidents with the CPS, incidents with the police, incidents with family and friends, all the incidents you come across on. And start with your earliest incident first. You put the date, the time, the location, and the people that were involved in the incident. Then you describe the next line, one sentence, what the incident was about. And then your third line is what was the outcome of your incident. If you don't know it, leave it blank, come back to it later. Then skip a couple lines with the next incident. You'll need this information 6 months from now. So it's so important to have this notebook. You can put it there, a section for all your parenting classes. Make out yourself an index. Do the same thing for all your programs, like your domestic violence program, or your drug-related program, your alcohol program, all the tests you've done, everything like that. So what that notebook becomes is all centralized. Instead of putting them on Post-it notes or envelopes or all those places, you should try to do that. And so I'm telling you that that notebook will become very, very valuable. Then use a highlighter, a pink or yellow highlighter, to highlight it. Okay, Natalie says the plastic folder with rubber bands are good. Yeah, but you need to thumb through it, need to pull pages out to make copies, and I find out that this works the best. But sure, that'd be another way you could do it. Anyway, you don't want to have them on Post-it notes or little scratches of paper, or some on your phone, or some on your computer, or some on your day runner. It's a hodgepodge. Mine were all over the place. And I wish I'd done a notebook. And it'll get thick. You may have to get a second notebook there. But anyway, I'm open up to phone calls. I've talked about rule number 2, which is about your paperwork. Rule number 3 is very important because So many people make the mistake of allowing people into their home. I want to emphasize how many people recently have been shot and killed by answering the door. We had Roger, an Air Force airman, age 23, on May 3rd, that was shot point blank, 5 bullets by a sheriff, when he answered the door. That was wrong. It took him a week, but that sheriff now is being charged with a crime. But that doesn't bring back the black man who was talking to his girl on FaceTime. It was a mistake. They came to his house thinking that there was domestic violence. They had the wrong apartment. Then there was a black lady that was doing the dishes. And there was 2 sheriffs in the house, and they're arguing about something. Instead of knowing people skills, how to quiet everybody down, he just unloaded 5 bullets into the face, killed the girl on the spot. The other deputy did nothing to prevent it. He was fired on the spot. He is charged with first-degree murder. His deputy is going to be charged also. But again, 2 people gone by answering the door. A third one was a Korean lady that had mental problems. She answered the door. She's dead too. So 3 people instantly are killed. There are a lot more that are killed. And I'm telling you all, don't answer the door for anybody. If you have family or friends coming, then you can make arrangements by the number of rings or the number of knocks on your doors. They can open it that way. You don't need to open it. Furthermore, you don't want to let social workers or police in your home. There's only 3 ways they can enter your home. Either you give them permission, or there's domestic violence going on, such as you're strangling a child or slamming a child against the wall, arguing in front of your children, using weapons like a knife or a gun. They will come in. The police or the social workers will intervene. Now, the third way they can enter your home is if they have a court warrant. That's where they go to the judge and say they have probable cause, they need to search the home or whatever they need to do. The court warrant's got to be filled out correctly. They're only issued Monday through Friday, not holidays or weekends. And the court order's got to have the people's names on it, and the children, and the allegations, the date and time when they can come to the home, and also the location of the home, and then what they can do. It's got to be a signed and wet signature by a judge with an embossed stamp on it. There'd be an official warrant. That way they can come and take your child. But no reason to open your home or give up your children. If you're outside and you encounter these people, the best way to talk to them is say, look, I cannot talk any further. I need to speak to my attorney who will represent me through all legal matters. And then I can get your name. What is your name, officer? What is your badge number? Write it down because they use false names. Same thing with social workers. Look at their ID. Get their name down. If they have a business card, that is great. But tell them you'll contact them. You're not trying to turn them off. You're not trying to ignore the situation. But it's your constitutional right with legal representation when you're in trouble with the law. When you're in trouble with the law. Okay. Where was the Korean lady from? That's a good question. I got to look that up, Natalie. I got to look that up. But you can just type in Korean lady shot opening the door, and it'll come up on the internet. In fact, you can type in people shot at the door, and it'll bring you up all the cases. I mean, it started off with that George Floyd guy. So it's really wrong how police now shoot and kill. They don't know how to wound somebody. So there I've told you, whatever you do, you don't have to give your children up. You don't have to speak to them. Everything you say will be used against you. There's also medical trafficking. That's where you come to take your children to the hospital and social workers working there. And sometimes by what you said or what they find out, they'll take your child. Don't give them your child. I told you the 3 ways to give your children. Either you give them permission, or they're in danger, immediate danger, or they have a court order. So be careful. Social workers from the child protection system work at the hospital. Also, if you're pregnant and going to have your child to hospital, don't let the social workers come in and take your baby. They'll try to do that. They'll say you tested positive in the umbilical cord, and right away they want to take the baby. They got to have a court order. Again, I'm telling you that rule number 3, don't give them up. Watch out the medical trafficking. Now, rule 4 is your research. You should research everywhere you can on the internet about your case. Start off with the city, the big city. If it's not big, then find the one closest to it. Then say CPS, and then ask the question, what the question is. And then you can do that for 40 to 60 hours, learn everything is about your CPS case. You need to look how motions are made, how anything's made. So research is my rule number 4. Rule 5 is something that Faye came up with that I'm gracious to her, and that is make yourself a special folder to keep important documents like your children's birth certificates, your children's grade reports, your children's social security numbers. You may want to put a copy of your marriage certificate or your driver's license or your certificate, birth certificate, or social service card. That folder is very important because you keep all your documents in one place, and that way you can easily have access to it. Natalie says, wow, that is crazy. When the police come, I thought the same thing. Well, you just don't talk to the police. You don't answer your door. Natalie, you don't answer your door. You know that. Crazy security bothered me. I yelled at him. I know he was a sex weirdo. You know, Natalie, yelling at people is not going to help. All you do is you don't answer the door. If you're outside, walk away from them. If you're worried about your safety, call 911. Call 911. And then the police will come and help you. Yes, medical kidnapping is real. The hospital profits from trading kids. Yes, I realize that. Okay, we got a new person that just joined the room here. It's Poet Minds. Well, I don't know if your name is Poet Minds. I don't know if that's your real name. I like to have a first name if you wouldn't mind, and also the city, state, or country you're from. But welcome to the person behind Poet Minds. But this is for child protection questions. Oh, Natalie wants to come up with a rule. Make sure you don't talk to them in English. Well, you don't have to talk to people. As I say, policemen and social workers for the CPS, don't talk to them, period. That's the answer. Have your attorney talk to them. Okay, your name is Trashia. Okay, welcome, Trashia. You live in California. What is your CPS question or comment, Trashia? What is your CPS comment or question? I'm glad you joined us. I'm here to help you. We've been going over the rules. I went over 5 rules. Rule 1, get an attorney. Rule 2, get a notebook. Rule 3, don't talk to social workers or police, and be careful of medical trafficking. Rule 4 is research the internet about CPS in your case. Rule 5 is keep all your documents, your children's documents together. You got to be careful because here's what happens sometimes. Parents will have the child, and then somehow parents may test positive for drugs. CPS will take the child, and if you don't grab your birth certificate, CPS will grab the birth certificate and put the parents' names of foster carers in there. It's going to be very difficult to show you're the father or the mother. So that's why I'm telling you, be very, very careful. Now, Trashia, you're from California. What is your CPS case? What is your CPS case? This is a room for people to talk about the child protection system. It's a branch of social service that is protecting our children from neglect and abuse, and also offering social service helps in the form of housing, clothing, food, education, and medical, and getting a job too. That's what they're supposed to do. And furthermore, if they break your family apart, they're supposed to do family reunification. Now, Trashia says they played me and closed my case while I was in jail and couldn't take a drug test because jail wouldn't allow it while I was incarcerated. So I failed and they took my rights. Yes. Trashia, what happened, I'm just guessing, is that you had a criminal charge against you and you must have had a child. And because you're criminally charged, they took your child and they put it in foster care. And of course, they're not going to tell you too much. And when you're found guilty with your criminal act, whatever it was, you had to serve time in jail. Now you're out. And you need to get yourself an attorney. You need to get yourself an attorney and get your children back. If it's one or two, I don't know how many children you have. But thank you, Trashia from California, for sharing that. Okay, I have about 4 minutes left of my podcast. We're going to be ending the show at 8 o'clock tonight. I've talked about my 5 rules. I've talked about how they react to this podcast, and we've been talking among various people. Yeah, I understand. She said that Trashia went to jail for a car ticket. I'm so sorry. Now, we've had Trashia from California have a comment in here. We've had Natalie, who is from West Hollywood, California, that has been really helpful with a lot of ideas. She ran across a case on the news that she ran in. We have Happy Feet from Tucson, Arizona, who still uses a court-appointed attorney, and he didn't show. Well, they're worthless. You need a real attorney there, Happy Feet. And then we have KK Richardson. I guess KK's too busy to call in, but I'm glad you're here. She's from Brooklyn, New York, and she has a terrible case where they're trying to eliminate her and have her kids be adopted. Faye from Richmond, Kentucky was here, but she had a phone call. She gives out a lot of advice, but she's a single mom, and I really appreciate Faye and her participation here. Who else did we have here? We have Taz from California, who was homeless and didn't have a home, and she was charged with neglect with her children. She needs to get help. She needs to get that home, get that shelter going. I think I've covered everybody in the room, and I appreciate you all for participating, listening. I'm on again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I'm on twice a day, so I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. This is Bob Pace telling you, please keep fighting for your children. Don't give up. God bless y'all, and good night.